Hi guys, welcome back. I've mentioned in other videos that when I moved to France, I was an English teacher or English assistant. You know that I learned French and I speak French, and obviously I'm living in France. So I'm constantly surrounded by French people who speak English or who try to speak English and vice versa. I'm English trying to speak French. In my daily life, I do notice a lot of very common errors that French people tend to make over and over and over again when they speak English. First of all, I know that I make a lot of mistakes in French. I pronounce a lot of things wrong. When I start to do my videos in French, you're going to hear the mistakes that I make, and I am really open to constructive criticism. That's totally cool. For this video, I want to focus on things that I hear French speakers say wrong a lot. Not just one French speaker, but like pretty much every French speaker that I come across. It's really difficult to speak a foreign language and have a perfect accent. I try to hide my British accent, but it's hard. This video is going to pinpoint the things that French speakers say wrong or pronounce wrong when they speak English. And it's going to give maybe some little tips to help you. And then maybe when I start to do French videos, you can leave me comments underneath telling me what I need to improve. Deal? Okay, so let's get started. Number one, the or sound. Okay, so this is something that I hear a lot with my husband. He really loves history and he's always telling me about like stories of the war. But when he says it, he says wow, like wow. It's like he opens his mouth too much. It makes the sound super wide. I don't know if that makes sense. We don't need to open our mouth so wide when we say or, okay? It's or, the way that my lips are pronouncing this word, or, war, saw, you see? I'm not wow, like a lot of French speakers, when they pronounce a word like saw or war, they are saying wow, so, oh. It's weird to open your mouth like this. When you say the or, try to purse your lips a little bit more, so they're like a really small circle, war, or, door. Okay? Something that French speakers do so much, pretty much all the time. This is the thing that makes an English speaker know that you're French immediately, is the fact that when we have a word in English with a short vowel, you French speakers elongate the vowel. For example, bin becomes bin, bin, and that actually is a different word. Bin and bean. If you're a French speaker, I'm probably hearing these two words and you're not hearing any difference. It's like me when I started to learn French, I couldn't hear the difference between coup and coup. Now I can because I've practiced a lot and I've made the mistake a lot of saying coup instead of coup. This is something that you need to practice because there's a lot of words that when you elongate the vowel, it makes a different word. So for example, like I said, bin and bean. It makes a different word when you say bin in the wrong way. Or in becomes in. It sounds really super French and it's one of the top things that makes people realize that you're French. Likewise, the inverse, yes, we say that in English. Oh my God, the inverse, making something too short when it should be longer. For example, beach becomes beach. You're taking the word plage and you're turning it into something that you don't want to be saying. Or sheet becomes shit. You see what I'm saying here? When you elongate the vowel, it's supposed to be short, or when you shorten the vowel, it's supposed to be elongated. In many cases, it can actually make a different word, and that word can completely change the context of the sentence, and it can get you into trouble if you say the wrong thing. So be careful with this one. Teaching kids in lycée and even college, they learn naughty words before they learn like useful words. They used to ask me, what's the difference between beach and bitch? These are basically minimal pairs. So if you search on Google for minimal pairs practice, you are going to hear words such as coup and coup. And at first it's going to be really, really difficult to hear a difference. But if you keep trying and you keep practicing, eventually you're going to get there. Because like I said, I can now hear and pronounce the difference between coup and coup, whereas before I couldn't hear the difference. For me, this was the hardest one. This has come from 1 year of practice. Okay, this is a little trick that I taught my students. As well as the minimal pairs thing that I just explained, there's another thing that really makes it obvious that you're French. But if you have a word such as butter, the ER for us, we don't overpronounce it like okay? And this is one of the major things because the French language is completely saturated with this sound. So when a French speaker reads a word such as butter, they say butter. And this can be the same for any word that ends with an er. Litter instead of litter. Dinner becomes dinner. After is after. There's too much going on, okay? In English, we really don't use this sound. So whenever you feel the need or you see a word where you think you're gonna have to pronounce it here's my tip. Say instead, okay? It's better for you to say dinner than dinner. It's better for you to say after than after, because we don't okay? We don't we Make it shorter and you're gonna improve your words tenfold immediately by just saying instead of Okay, mixing E and I. What do I mean by this? For example, the word bite. Okay, when you cock something, when you bite something. So this word is spelled, as you can see, B-I-T-E. If you pronounce this as beat, which I know is a lovely word in French, beat. But if you pronounce this as beat, you're going to completely change the context of your sentence. So for example, when my husband says to me, the dog tried to beat me, I think, huh? We have like the only dog in the world that knows how to throw a punch. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? Instead of saying she tried to bite me, to me, she tried to beat me, to beat me. The dog didn't try to beat him, she tried to bite him. It's completely changed the context of the sentence. These kind of things sometimes in English are really illogical. The only way that you can learn it is to learn it by heart, unfortunately. Pay attention to these. Okay, what is up with adding a H or taking a H away? When you say the word heart, my beating heart, or you are in my heart. When you say the word heart, French speakers, they don't always pronounce the H, so it becomes art. Similarly, they seem to add a H when there isn't one. So for example, I really like art becomes I really like heart. It's just crazy, and it's literally just practice, because I know it's normal for you to not pronounce the H at the beginning of a word, but if you don't pronounce the H on heart, it becomes art and this changes the meaning of the word. And this happens for a lot of words. So we need to be quite careful with this and to make sure that we pronounce that H when it's there. So for example, it's not Harry Potter, it's Harry Potter. In French, we have a lot of words where I say the word runs. So the word runs, it doesn't have a stress, okay? So what do I mean by this? I mean... I mean that, for example, let's look at the word photography. This is one of the ones that I find difficult. So we have photography and we have photography and photography. In English, we have a stress in the middle of the word photography, and we don't have a photographer, we have a photographer. Even as somebody who speaks French and somebody who is really used to hearing the mistakes that French people make, there has been many times when a French person has said photography or photograph or photographer to me, and I have not understood what they're saying simply because they didn't put a stress in the word. And this is even when I'm used to the French accent speaking English. You're going to find English speakers who don't speak French really will never understand what you're saying with this in this case, because it sounds like a completely different word when you don't use a stress in the word. This is something that you need to bear in mind. Even though photography and photographer and photograph are pretty much spelt the exact same in French and English, you have to remember to use the English pronunciation, not the French, because it's really hard for us to understand. And I know that you want to communicate clearly, so be really careful with the intonation. Jewelry. I love jewelry. Okay, so it's spelt really weirdly, as you can see. It looks like jewelry. And with the French way of not really pronouncing certain syllables, it could just sound completely different to how it's supposed to sound. The easiest way is to just break it into two. Jewelry. Sounds a bit weird when you say it like this, jewelry. But if you pronounce it like that and then you start to practice it a little bit more and it becomes more natural, it's gonna turn into the right word. So jewelry. Do you hear the difference? You probably don't, but if you keep practicing, you're gonna eventually hear the difference. Jewelry. Thorough and through. These words are really, really difficult, I understand, okay? First of all, they're really hard for French speakers because we have the TH, and in French, you don't really have this th sound. So when you pronounce it, you say t. In French anyway, you say t. So first of all, this is difficult because you're gonna be like, how the hell do I say this word? Is it thorough? Through, and then you give up and you think, I'm just gonna find another word to say. That's fine, that's a technique. But if you really want to be able to pronounce these words, you kind of need to learn them off by heart. Also, both of these words are spelled, their endings are spelled the same way, O-U-G-H, but you don't pronounce them the same way. Through, the ending is oo, and thorough, the ending is and they're both spelled O-U-G-H. I mean, I completely understand. It's like, how am I supposed to know? The point is you just have to learn it off by heart. So you pronounce them thorough and through. When you make this TH sound, try to bring your tongue onto your lips a little bit. Through. Again, through. Thorough. Do you see? It can be kind of unnatural to do this th, but you have to practice it. Rural, this is a strange word for me to point out, but this is something that I heard a lot when I was helping my students study for their exams, because they had to talk about the environment and they had to talk about the comparisons between rural areas and city areas. Most of them couldn't pronounce rural. And actually, I'm gonna confess to you, I find it difficult to pronounce rural. It's something that you have to practice. So rural, depending on different areas of the UK at least, rural and rural. French speakers sort of open their mouth too much when they say this word, and it sounds really, really odd. This is a really simple one. It's cloves, not cloveses. I hear a lot of people, they think cloves is the single, and so when they make it plural, they say cloveses. Makes total sense if you're following the rules of the English language, but it's not. Cloves is the plural, and clothing is the singular. My dog's going crazy today. What's happening to you? Angry and hungry. Okay, when I'm hungry, j'ai faim. When I'm angry, I'm en colère. When somebody says they are hungry with a French accent, it becomes hungry. And then we think, oh, you're angry? Because to us, it sounds like angry when you don't pronounce the H. This is why pronouncing the H is so important when there's a H. Don't forget that. Likewise, if you are angry and you add a H, you're gonna tell somebody that you're hungry, and they're either going to hear that you're hungry or they're going to hear that you're hangry. And hangry is actually a slang, argot word, which is a mix of hungry and angry. It's when you are so hungry that you start to get angry. If you pronounce it wrong, you could be hungry, but they think you're angry. You could be angry, but they think you're hungry. Or they might think, wait, are you angry because you're hungry? It's so confusing. Make sure you pronounce it right. Pronounce that H. Another really difficult one that all of my students seem to have problems with were walk and work. The thing is with work is that it has OR in the middle. Logically, you know OR, you say it or. Well, this is the word we always have a problem with, or. But when you do pronounce it correctly, it's or. So when you see the word work, you think walk. I walk very hard. The problem is that when you walk hard, you're talking about marcher, not talking about travailler. So this is the problem. Although OR is pronounced or, when it comes to this word, it's work. It's really difficult. You just have to know the difference. So work and walk. Lastly, for laughing, why is the word squirrel so hard to say in like every single language? So first of all, French speakers can pretty much never pronounce the word squirrel. I mean, I know this isn't very like an imperative word to learn, but you know, one day you might be talking about squirrels. French speakers can't seem to pronounce it. Squirrel. This is what I hear a lot. You can just cut it into two. Squirrel. 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 Seems easy when you break it down. But I'm going to confess to you, I have the exact same problem in French. I literally cannot say this word at all. One day I perfected it and everyone was like, yeah, well done, Carla. But I've completely forgotten it. So écureuil. Écureuil. So there you go, guys. That's just a few of the common things that I hear French speakers say wrong that maybe inhibits their chance to communicate and also makes it really obvious that they're a French speaker. Not that there's anything wrong with that, because in my opinion, anybody who makes an effort to speak a second language is awesome. And, you know, for a lot of English speakers, especially in the UK or in America or Australia, don't even learn second or third languages. So huge respect for anybody who tries, especially when they know they're going to pronounce things wrong and it can be a bit embarrassing. I feel like I'm very, very lucky to be a native English speaker. I'm going to try and make you as many videos as I can to help you. And if you have any questions or anything that you need help with, just leave a comment underneath and subscribe, because I'm going to do more videos on this. And if you're learning English, I just want to say stay positive and just keep practicing. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'm so happy to be able to help you with your English. And for now, I'm going to say au revoir. Stay tuned for more videos in French where you can correct me on my little errors. Ciao, guys. I always forget to say this. Please follow me on Instagram. It's @the_cosmic traveler with 2 L's, not 1. Thank you very much. Bye.